Ka, ka, ka. Okay. This book has a whole lot of If you ever seen Jimmy Fallon's I'd recommend it. This book is one of them. I'm getting really sick and tired of having to listen to this guy's continual, like, he's so absorbed in his thoughts and often forgets to eat and sleep. Like, how do you forget to eat and sleep? That's this. You have to, in order to live, you have to eat and sleep and drink water and more stuff. That he's so consumed with his thoughts. I found out within this reading that he has. It's only through a 4-day period. It's only been 2 days, and it's been on page like 200 something. What? It should not take you this long to go through 2 days. It shouldn't. Some things that are now very, very clear is that the author's intent was for you to draw your own conclusions about the thing, about each event that happens in this unnamed main character's life, which I think is Cecil. Cecil doesn't sound like a name. It's very apparent that he loves his wife, he loves his children, he goes back to them for solace. However, you don't know if he ever says goodbye. Like, I reread the parts that I was talking about last time. You don't know if he does say goodbye to his children whenever they're going off to go visit their grandparents. You don't know if there is anything worth living for. Like, is life worth living? That is annoying. Not that living for life is annoying, but the fact that he has 3 children. I'm not really exercising empathy that well. Going back to his wife, it is apparent that he loves his wife and his children, his family really, but his wife has this interesting like emotional dependent. Nope. He becomes emotionally reliant on her. Whenever he lacks courage, Claire is confident. Whenever he's depressed, she is hopeful. Whenever his thoughts are heavy, her thoughts are light like a feather. A big component of now what I realize are his thoughts is that he fears he's too badly damaged. And it's I think what's more pressing is that he uses this damage. Let's say this damage is the pen. He uses this damage. This is not a good example. Let's say the cap is the damage. He'll use the damage as an excuse. He uses his damage that he fears is too much, it's really circumstantial. It kind of just pops up in random places that kind of like triggers. This damage seems to be his excuse to not fully invest himself in people's lives, especially some of his children. And then it really hinders his own self-development and becoming or wanting to do things that he wants to do or he thinks he should do. But on top of all that, he has the nerve to have this pride, this ego that whenever he needs money, someone gives him a job, he doesn't take it because he thinks that he's only getting it because he needs money, which is why you have a job. Especially if you're in this situation, you do what you need to get the money. From personal experience, I mean, I'm working 3 jobs right now and doing 18 hours, and this I have to do these jobs so I can pay my tuition and rent and have time for. I guess I really don't have time for anything. I have the 3 jobs to pay for my rent, my tuition, necessities, things that if I don't have, then I can't really continue on with life. I need these jobs to continue life, essentially. When he's hungry, people give him gifts for food, but nope, nope. I'm not gonna take your food even though I'm hungry. I don't just accept it. Humble yourself. I mean, if you need something, what's keeping you from taking it? Of course, it's the pride, like I just mentioned. But that's not the point. Um, that is the point. I don't know why I made him sound like Barney the dinosaur. It almost gets to a point that he almost refuses his wife's moral and emotional support, which is all he's got going for him, really. That's the only thing that is really keeping him there, is his wife. She's like his emotional and moral rock. Something else I found out. Okay. Um, hmm. Considering part one is called The Loser, I didn't really make an effort to collect all the. meh, meh, meh. I really didn't make an effort to connect. Really didn't make an effort to. It was real. I just didn't try collecting all the things that he was talking about that really made him feel like a loser, and some of the things were like his. So this is like an inner monologue, the entire book. Since this narrator, who again I think his name is Cecil, Cecile. He's made it a big point of that his mixed race is such a huge influential part of his life. He, I think I forgot to look at the parts that were in his stories and the other parts that he was talking about. For instance, he's black, white, and Native American. Three huge parts that he found pieces of himself in. And he said that he often feels like a. Well, he didn't say this exactly, but it's kind of implied that he felt like a social experiment. And when with having all these three different worlds part of his identity, and he couldn't really choose any of these. Kind of going through the whole dualistic mindset that I mentioned earlier in the last video, having to live in so many different sets of the world. Something that he started mentioning in the rest of this section is that people call him Chief. I didn't really think much about it because it seems like something white people do, like sup Chief, yo brah, sup bae. But then I thought about it, and it's kind of derogatory, especially considering he has a Native American background. To call him chief, like chief of a Native American tribe or something. It just, I was like, whoa. Side note: they are going to their grandma's house in Massachusetts. It took me forever to figure that out last time, and I finally went back and did some research and actually prepared something to say. Now we finally got to the whole situation that I ended the last video with about the summer, what's happening in the current summer that they're in. So while his family went away to go stay in the grandma's beach house, he's staying with a friend named Marco, whose son and wife are away for the summer. So he has space for our narrators to stay in. This dude's pretty sketch. For some reason he has all this money. He doesn't do anything, and all they do together is watch baseball at night. And if the TV station's not working, then our narrator goes upstairs, fixes it, watches the stars, has some depressing, annoying, terrible inner dialogue or inner monologue, and goes back downstairs, and then blah blah blah, and that ends the night again. It is so sad. But then he gets into a deeper story and conversation about his family, especially his father. What brings up this entire thing is that he finds himself sneaking money out of Marco's change jar. He sneaks out money so that he can pay for morning coffee and actually have something in his system in the rest of the day, which is just crazy to think about how much we take food for granted. I know for a fact I haven't gone to the grocery store in 2 weeks, and I don't know how I'm still alive. Um, but this man hasn't gone grocery shopping in I don't know how long, and he's seeking out stealing money essentially to buy coffee so that he can live for that day. Narrator does have a really violent past. We find out that or I found out, I guess you're finding out too, that his father abandoned the family at a young age, when our narrator was at a young age, and that left the mother being very abusive, emotionally and physically, and that led to a lot of um, emotional scarring and mental scarring, which, if you don't really have anyone to reach out to or to talk to about this, you're going to result to other supplements that the world, or by the world I mean um, media, says is the normal thing to turn to. It's like drugs and alcohol. Now we get to the second part of the book. The Big Nig. First of all, that word. Okay. I don't. This might be really controversial, but since this is an ethics assignment, I think I have some jurisdiction to discuss this in an ethical standpoint. It is a derogatory term used to describe a black man or woman. This word, the N word, I don't understand what the intent of using it is. That he uses like a small little passage after it, like it's like a poem, that by T.S. Eliot, called Little Gidding. If you came this way, taking a... Really, the gist of this poem by T.S. Eliot called Little Gidding is talking about that things happen at the right moment, at the right time, especially when they are divinely placed, or is it... It's conditional. If one is in the right moment, then anything that happens to it is good, is supposed to happen. Like the little chapel, Little Gidding. Even if it gets burned down, it was at the right place at the right time. So then it was good. Then, I don't know why this whole entire part of the book is titled Big... That. I don't know why it's entitled that. I don't feel comfortable saying that word. And because I felt comfortable, I really understand the context of this derogatory term. I called Pauletta Jordan. She is a senior. She was in the lead LLC with me, and that's how I know her, and I feel comfortable asking her this question. So here's the conversation. He entitles the second part of the book Big Nig. And and it just, this book, I can't. In what ways that does is it appropriate to use this word, and what ways is it inappropriate to use this word?
I know within the black community, especially from my own experience, it is a word that we see as a word we can use, but not a word that others can use. So you see a lot of African Americans decide that I'm not going to use this word because if someone turns around and uses it on me, I get offended. But you also see some African Americans who are like, no, this is our thing, like, it's part of our community. Like in Indian community, they call their sisters Abba. So in our community, we might call you the N-word as a sense of like, you belong and you're a part of this, although you have the battle that white students, especially here at Baylor, like, then why can't I say it? And we're just like, it's not for you. Because it's never something that I've seen that we encourage in other cultures. You know, we barely say it. You know, it's like a joking thing for us, but if anyone else says it, it's completely derogatory, completely unacceptable. But if I know, like, more I try to be like Christ, the less I try to use that kind of word, because the history behind the word is almost just, it's worse than a regular cuss word, because it did have such a negative connotation when it was being used in the past. There's never, in our culture, we are more likely, you see it as more like, I would say, more non-educated African Americans use it in everyday conversation. In public settings, I find more educated African Americans, if you use it, I know in my house we use it in the comfort of our own home, but it's not something that educated African Americans are going around screaming, because we realize that you are inviting the question or the idea that other cultures can say it, therefore inviting the fight.
So ethically, it would never be appropriate for anyone outside of the African American or Black community to use ever. But within that community, it's affirmation of belonging and identity with each other. It kind of brings unity. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
In a certain way, I mean, there's definitely more of a shift toward all of us not using the word, just because our ancestors, they couldn't help but be called that word.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of rallies, a lot of shifts in the community, a lot of challenges to get that word in our community. It's not there yet, but it's definitely a shift. So ethically, I would say definitely no one else but knows the shift and the attempted shift in our community to clean up that word from our day-to-day language.
Yeah. So now this dude our narrator is very excited that he gets a construction job. Then it's something he takes pride in because he's done it before, and he has collected a lot of tools and makes him a real master craftsman. I don't mean to say that harshly, but I'm still a little heated. But what's funny is the man that gives him, well, maybe it's not funny, but the man who gives him the job, this is funny. His name is Johnny Little Nancy Boy. Johnny Little Nancy Boy, Johnny Little Nancy Boy, Johnny Little Nancy Boy, Johnny Little Nancy Boy, Johnny Little Nancy Boy. Okay, I can't say that 5 times fast. Was that 4? He appreciates seeing the narrator's skill again, which was interesting. At least it sparked my interest. I was like, ooh, he's going back to old ways, which is weird because he's so prideful. So why he take this job? Our narrator a few years ago was able to work or had worked with Johnny, and then he quit to take a teaching job, a college teaching job, which is really cool. But he never really said why he quit back then, or why he is no longer teaching at the college level. So I thought that was interesting. So as of right now, that's pretty much all I've gotten up to so far. Still have 2 more videos to summarize the rest of the book, the rest of the 200 pages I have to read. Yeah, I know, it was my choice, yada yada yada, I regret it. Hopefully, there's some better resolution than whatever's happening now. If not, I don't know if I can handle this. Maybe I have to rethink my whole entire future, my whole entire life, because this is not cutting out for me. It isn't. Maybe if he had a social worker help him out, then his life wouldn't be as annoying. Maybe that's a little prideful. Maybe,